without question, must be pretty unsettled.
Well, thank you, Phil, for having me, and I was relieved to hear that there's no specific threat, and we pray, of course, for our brothers and sisters in San Antonio that this turns out to be nothing more than a very scary threat. Our hearts are with them, and unfortunately, we Jews are all too familiar with these kinds of threats through our history, and unfortunately, in our modern day here in America. So my thoughts and prayers are with them, and the reality is that threats like these to the Jewish community are threats to minority communities all across this country and threats to freedom of religion in general in our nation.
Can I ask you about that first point? You know, it's obviously over the history of the faith, it's always been a reality, but this moment in particular, over the course of the last several years, the threat has become more acute, more numerous. Is this just dealing with added security measures, dealing with threats coming in? Is this just the sad reality now? What is your sense of what can be done to try and shift this dynamic?
Unfortunately, issues like these and anti-Semitic attacks that we thought were perhaps in the past, we've seen all too real, are a part of modern Jewish life and a part of the modern Jewish experience. So we raise our security profile, of course. We also seek to build bridges across lines of difference because the Jewish community doesn't have to be alone and isn't alone in moments like this in America. And we are lucky for that, but we need to combat hate in all of its forms. And today we're feeling it as a Jewish community in particular.
You know, my colleague Nadia referenced the FBI director who told our colleague Evan Perez that they're seeing an increase of threats against the Jewish community. What's your sense of what's driving it? Why is this happening right now?
You know, there's threats to minority communities of all sorts in our nation, unfortunately, and the Jewish community is no different in that way. The rise of white supremacy that was really hidden in the shadows, it seems, for a long time, has come to the fore, and the Jewish community has been victims, just like many other faith communities. There's so much, division in our nation, and unfortunately, we've seen the rise of hatred against all manner of communities in recent years, and it's very difficult for Jews today, but in other times it's been difficult for other communities, and it seems like it's an increasing phenomenon here in our nation, and something that we have to continue to combat. It's not what it means to be an American, and it needs to stop for us and for all communities as well.
How do you address this to the people that you oversee, that you speak to at Temple, that you work on their faith with on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis in some cases? How do you address this issue specifically?
Well, firstly, I need to listen, because people are in pain, and incidents like these raise our fears. And so, like the pastor that I was raised and trained to be, I start with listening. And in moments like these, our adults are afraid, our kids are afraid, and worried about their immediate safety. And so we try first to assure them that we're doing everything we need to do and everything we're being advised to do to keep us safe. We build relationships and connections with, in our case, the NYPD, who helps to keep us safe. So first is making sure that our security stance is safe and that our people feel that they can talk and be honest about how they're feeling. And then we invest and double down, like I said, in our relationships with other faith communities and with other communities across our city and across our country, because we know that we can't stand alone, and we shouldn't stand alone. And there's strength in building those kinds of relationships so that we can call upon each other in moments of joy and share each other's joys, and also share each other's pains and stand with each other in moments of challenge and difficulty like this one. And that's really my message to my community whenever these kinds of incidents come up.
Yeah, can't stand alone, aren't standing alone. Rabbi Joel Mosbacher, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, coming up, gun violence is